If it doesn't work, I can always come off the side here. Good morning, beautiful people. It is a fine spring morning. There's already shade coming off of these trees and it's beautiful. So, as you'll see in this video, I am filming this video way out of order. This has been a project I've been working on for 2.5, 3 months, something like that. It was still cold when I started. All right, so I'll give you kind of a rundown. I have a friend named Mike who has a YouTube channel. It's a new YouTube channel, but what he's doing is unique. I haven't seen it anywhere else on YouTube. Mike takes regular things and puts them in what's called a charcoal retort. Basically, it's an oven that has a chamber that you can put anything organic, anything that will burn inside this chamber, and it burns it in a very, very low oxygen environment. All of the gases are allowed to escape, and all you're left with is just pure carbon. It's pretty cool videos. We will link his channel. He's just getting it going, and he's working on upgrading his setup. That's where this comes in. This thing right here is a 200 gallon, I think that's what they are, 200 gallon oil drum. They usually hold heating oil or diesel. You know, a lot of people use them, and so you can find them. A lot of times when they start rusting out and leaking, they're just scrap. A lot of people just scrap them. Well, Mike called me, I think this was probably maybe late December, early January. It was a while ago. He sent me a picture and he said, "Hey, can you build this?" I was like, "Yeah, I can build that. It doesn't look too complicated." So we worked it out, and he brought me 2 drums. Actually, he brought me 2 drums, and he brought me 55-gallon drums, and I put it all together for him and made a charcoal retort. I actually skip ahead to the end of the video. I actually did use this one I built him. I had to test it out, and it does make charcoal. I'll show you that towards the end of the video. But yeah, this is the build video. Mike is one of those guys that he shows up when nobody else does, and so when he asked me if I would build this, you bet. Plus, it was a fun project. So I built this thing on weekends, whenever I had a minute, when we didn't have something going on. And working on the weekends, I don't know. I have a good number of hours in this project because it's just a bunch of like fiddly, put something on, try it out, figure out you don't like it, take it off, that kind of stuff. But all in all, it was a fun project. So here's the build video. Hope you guys enjoy. I'll try to explain as the video goes what's going on, just so people have a good understanding of what I'm doing. So the first thing I did was I cleaned this drum out best I could through the fill hole, which is only a 2-inch hole, drained out as much sludge as I could get, and then promptly cut out an access door. So these doors that I'm cutting out, this is what will be the access for the, I call it the stove portion, where you put the wood to burn, provide the heat to the stove. The next thing I did was I took it over to the fire pit. I built a huge fire inside this thing and outside to kind of burn off some of the fuel oil sludge that was kind of built up on the bottom, and it worked really nice. Something I did that wasn't on camera was I pressure washed inside and out and got it to where, you know, if I'm setting my elbows on it while I'm welding, I'm not getting all covered in grease and grime. All right, the next thing to do, the next order of business, was to cut the hole that the 55-gallon drum, I guess, oven portion, you know, the retort has to fit in. So the way this works is I take a couple 55-gallon drums, cut the bottoms out of both of them, weld them together, make a giant tube, and then fit this inside of this entire unit. There's a lot of welding that went into that. I probably used a better part of a 30-pound roll of wire on this project, which is cool. It's always fun burning some wire. This project was a lot of welding, and I mean a lot of welding. So I had to cut the hole really, really big because of the ribs in these drums. That then makes a problem for welding this drum inside this big drum. So my answer is I bent a strip of metal. This is a pretty rough first shot, but I'm going to start tacking this in place. I will get it tacked and secure all the way around, and then I'll start tacking it to this drum. I'll be short a little bit because my piece of metal was too small, but that's no problem. I know I have lots of little scraps that big, but that's kind of where we're at. All right, moment of truth. I got my centering rings tacked on this thing to hopefully hold the drum somewhat round. I had to get these lids, like this one, I had to force it on there and clamp it. And so now I'm hoping that this ring, it's not touching all the way around, but it's touching a lot of places. So hopefully it'll keep that drum somewhat in a round shape. Still a long ways to go on this, but I'm gonna pull these covers off and make sure that they go on easy, because they're gonna have to come off and go on a regular basis. Got it. Next was fitting the door. I made some simple, they're basically barrel hinges. I just bent some pieces 90 degrees. Found pipe that fit pretty close and just made a simple hinge for these doors. Nice thing about having a nice big scrap pile is I was able to just kind of sort through all the random scraps and bits and bobs I had, and I'm not out anything for just using up scraps that I already had. So it was kind of cool being able to make so much of it out of just scrap. Something I did not show was I took the stand that these drums came with, and one of them I shortened so it put it down on a good level for working, and it actually worked out. All right, I'm playing around with kind of closing up the gaps on the doors. They don't have to be airtight, it's just a burn box. You really want a nice hot fire in there, so I'm not gonna mess around with making dampers or anything like that. I'm just trying to make the doors look a little bit neater and finished. We're getting there. That is gonna be my chimney adapter. I just made a ring real quick. It is not even close to round, but it'll be fine. It fits a piece of chimney. Figured I would explain this before people go nuts in the comments. Hey, it's not gonna be able to breathe. There is actually an air gap between this drum and this drum. I don't know, it's probably an inch, but it gets, bigger. And it's pretty dark in here, but you get the idea. Smoke goes up, it should find its way out. We'll try it. If this placement for a chimney does not work, which I assume it will, if it doesn't work, I can always come off the side here. I'm gonna do a test burn today. I gotta figure out how I'm mounting that ring on there. I might just cut a hole and just sink it down in there, but we'll see. So about right there. Actually right there. Luckily I'm working with a squircle here, so I can just turn it until it stays put, and then I can weld it. I can feel that gap. Alright, we got a smokestack. Let me clean some stuff up, move some stuff away, and I'm gonna go grab some cardboard and some wood and stuff, and I'm gonna do a test burn in this thing. I've actually already done a test burn. I wanted to see if that little fill over on that end was enough to let the smoke out, and it was not by a long shot. So I'm gonna get some stuff, throw it in there. Kind of want to see what it does. So we save paper. separate out our paper towels, cardboard, all that good stuff. We separate it out in paper bags and then we just burn them. So I'm going to use those as my fire starters, and then I'm going to use cardboard. Luckily we have some butter soaked rags or some sort of cooking oil. Use that to get the fire going. Okay, the chimney's chimneying. I think so. I'll have to get a new bite. I wish I had filmed this and wrapped up this portion of the video. I actually did put wood chunks in the top. I made charcoal, and it worked great. We pulled the charcoal out before Mike came and picked this up. This is what we made. Some of the chunks didn't render out. These were like huge chunks of wood, but it's charcoal. Probably could have burned it a little bit longer. Some of these smaller chunks, like that was yeah, you can see that one didn't render all the way. And that's my fault. I didn't burn it long enough. I just started it and walked away. So that's charcoal, lump charcoal. I really did load this thing up with a lot of charcoal, or wood, before I burned it. And only the very biggest, like gnarliest chunks didn't charcoalize complete. But I mean, they're pretty much charcoalized. I actually liked this thing so much, seeing how much charcoal you can make, because you can load that top drum. You can pack it, as full as you can make it, and as long as you burn a long enough fire underneath, everything will eventually turn to pure charcoal. If you guys have spent any time around our channel, you'll know that I like to smoke meats, and lump charcoal is like where it's at. If you're gonna do a low and slow smoke for a long time, being able to, honestly guys, like having access to lump charcoal that big, that would be incredible. Lump charcoal, even though it's easy to make, it gets expensive, especially if you're buying it all the time. It gets expensive. So that's what it'll do. That was one burn. Probably took, I don't know, 4 hours, if that. Could have burned a little bit longer, but that's user error. Pretty cool. Like I said at the beginning, if you would like to see this thing in action, Mike knows what he's doing. He's been charcoalizing things for his YouTube channel. Go over to his channel, check it out. Check this new retort in action. I am very curious to see what he can fit in there, because now he has a very, very large chamber that he can put all sorts of things in, unusual things. Talking with him about some of the things he plans on charcoalizing, I'm kind of looking forward to that. I will be watching because it sounds very, very interesting. I'm not going to spoil any of the surprises. Go over. His channel's called Carbonize This. I mean, the sky's the limit. You can, if it's burnable, he can turn it into carbon. There's one of the first videos he did, he took some flowers and put the flowers in his current retort that he uses, and they turned to pure carbon. It was really cool. Very delicate, but really cool. So we will leave a link. Go show Mike some love. This was a fun project. It was cool working with Mike. So that's going to do it for this video, and I will catch you guys on the next one.